I guess that's, I mean, go a little bit into the why, right? I mean, obviously there's tons of CARES money. There's a lot of funding towards this. Do you think that both, and I'll put this on the public and the private side. I mean, let's maybe start with the public side. Everybody knows we need, to Zach's point, like we need to not be 20th. And I mean, we need to be way up there from a broadband perspective. But when the legislators meet and the PUCs and everybody else, like, do people actually understand the why, right? We talk about, economic benefits and healthcare and education. Do you think those are, and I'm not being flippant, but I mean, do you think those are sound bites, or do you really think there is an understanding of how, once the broadband is in the ground or in the air, of what to do with it? Do you think that on the public side, they know what to do?
No.
I mean, I would say there's an understanding, at least now, that broadband is a critical need. That's been I think that's been the greatest impact, I think, at least for us, that we've seen in terms of COVID. That at least it has made everybody aware that broadband is a critical need. So that's good. But then what to do is, it's still up in the air.
Yeah, right? Listen, Nick, we got antiquated systems all the way around, right? If we really knew this, the FCC wouldn't be messing around with 25.3. We wouldn't have the USDA talking 10.1. They don't have a clue. And that's how we're leading our funding. We're building infrastructure that when it's done funded, it's out of date. It's no longer useful. So if we truly knew what we were talking about, we'd be talking about building networks that we could live with in the next couple decades. You're going to get my soapbox real quick, and then I'll get off, and I'll let everybody else talk. Because
will your camera zoom out enough to see the soapbox?
Soapbox. Get on the soapbox.
I'm coming in. No, I mean, here's the deal, right? We're going to see a stimulus package. It's going to happen. There's going to be an infrastructure package. When that infrastructure package comes, it's going to be loaded with broadband infrastructure. If we fund one network that my 5-year-old son has to pay for in 20 years, that is not around and functional, and he's able to use with stimulus funds, criminal. It is. We need to quit screwing around. And that's why Washington State's taken a lead on this. And it's aggressive, and I know it's expensive, but our goal 2028 150 symmetrical, right? To everybody. We're not screwing around up here, right? So and is that attainable? I don't know, but we're going to put that as our moonshot. We're going to focus on that because we want to build networks that are going to be around for a long time. We will be technologically agnostic in areas where we have to be, because that's where we have to think, where it's going to cost, an arm and a leg, like we did with the Ho Tribe and SpaceX. But I'm going to tell you right now, it is incumbent on us as leaders in this industry to continue to work on building those scalable infrastructures and not mess around with subsidizing the billions of dollars we do in 10.1, 25.3, and antiquated asymmetrical networks. Okay, I'm done.
Russ, have you had a lot of pushback from ISPs about that 150 symmetrical in terms of a technology?
Yeah, of course I do.
Like challenge? Yeah,
of course we do. But you can't argue with the fact that we got to build. You can't argue with the fact that today. So I'm doing a broadband test to the premise in this state, right? I've got 45,000, 50,000 dots on my map right now. 68% of those dots are showing less than 25 megabits to the prem. On today's networks, where we have the need to do healthcare, education, commerce, work, multiple works, precision ag, entertainment. Remember, we used to use broadband for entertainment. All a lot of times, all at the same time. These networks aren't built for this, right? And so we have to continue to help that. That's the public side. Bottom line is, there is no right answer. It's not public is going to be the right answer. Private is going to be the right answer. It has to be a work together. We have to come together with our providers. We have to support our providers, and we have to support them with public assets and public funds, right? So we can continue to do the good work that's going on out there. All right. I'll mute.
Wow, that was awesome.
That was a hell of a soapbox.
Yeah, get fired up, Russ. I like it.
This is what I like
to your point,
about,
though, too.
This is what I like about what Eric said. Is Eric brings up these small communities. I've talked about this before on this program, this entertainment program that we're here for. But these smaller communities need a provider. They need someone because they don't have a full-time attorney. And this is something I've said before. So I'm really pleased to hear Eric recognize this, because how do you cut a deal with a community that doesn't even understand the Telecom Act of 96 or understand franchise agreements or can't be paid on internet? And there's been some legislatures that have been really helpful at the state level to say, here, we're going to reiterate that this is how you write a franchise agreement. And that helps those discussions. But as a provider, you look at those conversations and having to recreate that. We scan the horizon and say, who do we want to walk through the door with or across a threshold with? Because you have to have a champion too. This is the other part that we need to talk about. And this is the case for public-private partnerships. You have to have a champion that not only takes it across a line, but provides that continuity to the next set of people to keep that thing going.
But to that point, so who's the champion? Is it private? Is it
There's
public?
someone local. There's a local and there's a provider. Because here's the hard part. The PUD network that Russ described, or the city of Ammon, what they're doing is they're saying we're building this for everybody, and it's very transactional, which I think in a mid-sized community will work, right? The smaller communities is what Eric is talking about, where that just won't work. And so like the town of Fort Morgan, Colorado, what did they do? They cut a deal with a provider, and it says the provider has exclusivity for a certain amount of years. So that's an interesting model, right? The provider gets some sort of assurance that they can protect that investment because they have the time to set it up. And that's the hard part about a PPP. There's the time to set it up. There's meeting upon meeting upon meeting. And a provider looks at certain communities and says, this is going to be hard. There's no local champion. We're willing to be a champion here, but we got to hold hands. We got to walk across this threshold together.
Brian, in that Fort Morgan scenario, Fort Morgan is, as a city, they are owning all of the fiber though, right?
I believe so, and I believe that's the case in Breckenridge as well.
Right. So that's why there's still obviously a major investment for the ISP to come in and be able to do everything they need to do to provide great service and customer service. So they needed to have some assurances, right, that if they don't own those assets, that someone else is not going to be able to come in here so quickly, right, and unseat us, because it takes some time to obviously put the investment into the community. Right.
Yeah.
Another aspect too is I think it's interesting is where you've also seen some really interesting models where you may have a portion of the fiber owned by the city, but then where some of the ISPs then fund the drops, right? So then there's kind of an investment, right? There's a barrier of entry, right, from competition. They've got skin in the game. That's really interesting. Just curious, Russ and Eric, have there been some scenarios like that you've seen in your states, where there's kind of like this partnership where the muni owns all the backbone fiber, and then the drops are being provided by somebody else, right? The actual ISP is owning that portion.
Go ahead, Eric. I can't think of one off the top of my head.
I can do it, Russ. So we have a good example in our backyard. The city of Emmett is a really good example, and where what happened is that years ago, and this is, I think, to Brian's point about the need for planning and understanding your community. Again, like we have some communities right now that are knee deep in the broadband work, and then we have others that have come forward to me and said, "Hey, I want to get involved in broadband, and I need broadband right now." And I'm like, "Well, it's a process. Again, you haven't done the legwork that maybe some of these other communities have done, and so you really don't know what you need. And so helping them through that process is important." So anyways, the city of Emmett years ago, and they have a public safety and water department, and what they wanted to do was kind of build out their network. They had 2 providers in town, and what they did was they slowly went through and built out in town dark fiber networks connecting water pumps and water stations. And so they slowly built out this network. They didn't go out to raise any capital to do it. They just bootstrapped the whole thing, and they were clever. We have small grants for rural communities in Idaho, and so every time they would be doing some infrastructure build out, and they would ask us for grant dollars, to help with maybe laying water infrastructure, they would then be laying fiber at the same time. So they are super, super clever and had a really strong plan about what they wanted to do. And so in doing that build out, they've now gone to 6 providers. They just this past fall, we're working with the developer and an ISP to kind of build out all the drops to all those homes. But we're able to do so at an affordable price because the ISP was able to use that backbone, the dark fiber backbone, to build that out and then carry the rest of the way over to the new subdivision that was being built and connect to all the homes. So it's, and I think that's, again, another example of just a really understanding what your community looks like and kind of adapting it to kind of what you have and figuring out what the best solution is. And so it's worked really well for them.
I have to laugh. I think there's a partnership going on with Russ getting himself another beer right now.
Was that the 5-year-old?
That's a private partnerships, what that's
right.
called.
Yeah, this is private. The funny thing is, I've got a senator that's begging for my attention right now, and I said, I'm busy. I don't have any time for you today. I put him off for you guys.
Awesome. Nice. That's nice, Russ. That's commitment.
Just don't let this get out. Don't let this hit the internet. Really?
This won't be on Spotify or Apple or anything. No, it's fine.
Hey, Russ, I've got a quick question for you, man. You're very passionate about speeds and connectivity and what throughput is totally necessary. In your mind's eye, is it gig for everybody, or what is that speed threshold that you feel is necessary?
Great question, Zach. And I don't have a definitive answer for you. The reason being is I don't know that we know what we need, right? I think technology is going to dictate, as we gain speed on our internet, we gain application, right? And I think application will drive speed. I think what I want to try to do is build networks that are prepared for whatever it is we want to do down the road, right? So what I need today, I could probably 25 megs be great if I knew I had 25 megs dedicated and they weren't going to go to 10 and 6 and 5 and and get all screwed up in between. I think we could work with that. But the problem is right now, we all know, past CLEC owner, oversubscription model, it's the way we made a little bit of money back in the day. It's a different ball game today. And so we do need better throughput. I'm pushing, I think why I like fiber is it's undefined as far as how big it can go. It's only constrained by the hardware we put on the ends of it, right? So I just think that's the kind of network that we want to aspire to build, right? But let's be realistic, and let's make sure we're not blowing the piggy bank up. The whole tribe was a $15 million fiber build for 36 homes. Probably a tough shot right now, right? We're able to get SpaceX in there, get them 100 megabit. All the whole tribe members are hooked up with 100 megabit connectivity with the SpaceX Starlink project. It's good. Sure. It's good spend. It's good spend for right now. Does that mean they don't need fiber? No, I think it means we still continue to try to get it out there, but we'll get it there when we have time and when we got the resources and there's other demands for it.
Well, I think it's like always in my mind, always been, the balance, right, of strategically trying to place the fiber in the right areas as that backbone, whatever you want to call it. And we're seeing some amazing things done with, and Brian has a ton of experience with this, Zach as well, with this, kind of a hybrid play, right? And strategically building out your backbone, bringing fiber to, cell sites, towers, whatever it is. And of course, every along the fiber route, everyone's getting fiber, but then, you're also leveraging, wireless. We're working, with a tribe in Colorado with Zach's team and, the capabilities of licensed 2.5 gigahertz spectrum, is absolutely amazing, right? And what we're designing right now for this particular area that has 1,000 square miles, for coverage, it would cost $100 million to build this network out. But strategically putting fiber in the most dense areas, right, and connecting those towers is just a fabulous stepping stone, right? But you're right. No matter what, the focus has to be continuously driving more fiber. But there's some amazing wireless assets available today. The technology in the last 36 months is phenomenal. What's happened, right? And being able to be a small carrier and to deploy your own LTE solution is unbelievable, right? A few years ago, that absolutely unheard of. So you're being able to put these tools in the hands of creative minds that doesn't cost a lot of money in a lot of cases, right? So it's a huge tool.